Rebecca here. I am about to write my first February pen dry, so I figured I should do a February currently inked. Now, because I don't want this to take forever, I have written out most everything. The only thing I haven't done is my inky irises. So this first pen is a Franklin Christoph Pocket 20 in the bronze colorway. That was a Wonder Pens colorway from quite a few years ago, with a medium steel Mike Masayama stub nib. And the ink is Tono and Lim's Hubble. So you can hear my dog pacing in the background. She is up. I do not know why. Normally she's asleep at this hour of the night, but it's the puppy up. Big news, our puppy is almost 10 months old. Tomorrow, on the 15th, she will be 10 months old, and she is now 95 pounds. So she's going to be small for a Mastiff, for an English Mastiff. Yes, you are, Possum. Going to be, I don't know if you heard that, but that was her farting. She's classy like that. So Tono and Lim's Hubble is an unsaturated ink. So the classification for this pen is pocket pen, because this is a pocket 20. You can see how little it is. It needs to be posted in order to write. Like I can't write with it like this. It needs to be posted to be long enough in the hand to write with. So that's the pen classification is pocket, and the ink classification is unsaturated. Because this is a soft blue, not a lot of saturation. It's a pale faded denim blue. Very pretty. I like it. So next up is my journaling pen. It is the Franklin Christoph model 451 IPO in black with a medium steel Jim Rouse Sig nib. Come on, let's work, shall we? And this greenish gold is Onishi Emotional Olive for ink. Possum, you can't push through there anymore. She's trying to go underneath the table in front of my legs, between my legs and the center of the table. And when she was smaller, she used to be able to fit there, but she doesn't fit there now. So, 195-pound dog, even though she is very small for her breed, is a rather large dog. So, let's see. Get the bottom of my inky iris done. Put some extra heaviness in the center for shading. The reason I do these inky irises is to show if there is any shading in the ink. Ooh, missed a spot. Down there and down there. And I've been doing them for years and years, and I just like them. Irises used to be my favorite flower. They aren't now, but they used to be my favorite flower. And I figured out a way to kind of draw an iris, and I've been doodling it ever since. So next up is my Admar M800 in B orange. It has a medium steel nib that is extremely wet, and it is inked with Robert Oster Green Olive. This was a holdover from January. There were two pens that are holdovers from January, but you can see, you can probably see how wet this ink is being laid down. Like, this is a yellow ink. Yellow inks are usually not very legible, but this puppy is going down wet. Speaking of puppies, she has left the kitchen. I'm looking at the dining room table, well, the kitchen table, to be close to the dogs. Oh, classifications. The journaling pen, the black pen, was my journaling pen, and the ink classification is green. I'm challenging myself to use green coral and taupe or brown every month of this year if I can, because I love those colors so much, and I have so many inks in those color ranges. So I'm trying to use them. So the classifications for this pen and ink are, it's a medium nib, so it gets that catch-all classification, and it is a Robert Oster ink. I have classifications Sailor, Diamine, and Robert Oster because I have so many of those inks. I want to challenge myself to use as many as possible. So yeah, every month I pretty much pick a Sailor, a Robert Oster, and maybe a Diamine. I don't have a Diamine yet in February, but if I add a pen later this month, I will probably use a Diamine ink. So next up, I actually did this part in the wrong, I grabbed the wrong pen. So the actual pen for this is my Franklin Christoph Model 45 in Amber Ice with a medium steel Mike Masayama stub nib and Sailor Mano Khaki. And it is a lovely, crisp, slicey nib. I'm adoring this. It is very wet. And the color is, well, I'm calling it a colorful pen because it is quite a colorful pen. You can see the ink sloshing around in there. So the pen classification is colorful and the ink classification is bright. This is a bright orange ink. I was thinking it was going to be a lot more coral when I ordered it, but I got it and it is just plain bright orange, and that is fine. Has a hint of yellow in it, but it's very soft. There's no pink in this whatsoever. So, a lovely combination. Next up, and I'm just going to slide up a little bit, hopefully not bump the camera. Next up is my Kaigaloo 316 in the Saffron body, or at least it was called Saffron by the vendor I got it from. 316A, sorry, Kaigaloo 316A in Saffron. This one has an extra fine steel nib that came with a different pen, but I stole it. These coated extra fines, or these coated nibs, Kaigaloo nibs. So you can see this coated nib. It's coated with some sort of artificial rose gold. They are so much bigger than their size. Like, I'll just outline the iris to start, and you can see how thick that line is. You can see there how thick that line is. So even though it is an extra fine nib, classed as an extra fine, marked as an extra fine, it is more like a medium. It writes just like the medium above it. So I actually have two of this pen and body, excuse me, getting over a 2-week-long cold, which was not fun. And I have been on the couch for 2 weeks just sleeping and coughing. So my throat is still a little sore. So this one is an extra fine, and I have this exact same body with a medium, which is a very generous broad, writes like a very generous wet broad, so generously wet and broad that I cannot use it on this tiny Tomoe River paper grid. I didn't mention it earlier, but this is Tomoe River paper, original style. So for classification for pen, this is an extra fine nib, and for ink, this is a coral, and the ink is Taranishi Opera Rose, which is relatively new to me. I got that in December. So next we have another new to me ink. This is my Onishi Sesakusha celluloid in the Sakura material. It has a fine steel nib tuned by Jack Hernandez, tuned and smooth. It had an okay fine steel nib. Now it has a spectacular fine steel nib. The ink is a Sailor, well, Sailor makes Kobe inks. It's a Kobe ink, exclusive ink featuring Filissimo Chocolate Museum, and it's called Strawberry Chocolate. So classification-wise, this one is going into the fine nib for the pen. Fine nib classification. And for the ink, this is a Sailor ink, because I allow myself so many Sailor inks. I want to use my Sailor inks more. And my Sailor inks, look at how wet this is going down. This is just amazing. You can see how dark that is. It's a pale, unsaturated pinky brown, but it's going down so wet. Sailor makes so many different lines. Sailor does make Kobe inks. So I have Sailor Manyo inks, Ink Studio line, Gentle inks, Kobe inks, and one other line I can't remember that Sailor makes. Oh, Shikiori and Hirameku. So I have a lot of Sailor inks. Okay, next up is the Opus 88 Omar in Milk Tea. Now this was the pen that when I saw it advertised, when I saw it released on a Wonder Pens email newsletter, I went, oh no. And my husband said, what? Because we were in the den together. We'd been vaguely watching some silly British game show. And I said, oh no, so loudly. He heard me and stopped watching. And I said, I need to have this pen. And I hadn't bought a pen at that point for nearly 2 years, 21 months. And he said, well, if you need the pen, you need the pen. So I got the pen. So this is an Opus 88 Omar in, not Milky White, Milky Tea. Milky Tea. It has a medium steel nib. Nothing has been done to this nib. This is just a plain old nib. And it is inked with Van Diemen's Kitten Paws. Now this, classification-wise, is a travel-safe pen because this is an eyedropper fill pen. And you saw me open the back of this. You can see here that this is open quite a few turns, quite a few rotations. And that is to open the locking mechanism that prevents ink from the barrel of the pen getting down to the feed of the pen. And if you don't unlock this, ink does not flow. So it's a very good travel safe pen in that if you're going on an airplane or on a train or something, you can lock this down just like that. And now no ink can escape. So this locks, puts a gate mechanism right here. And no ink can go from the body of the pen down into the feed section. So it's a travel safe pen. And the ink is my challenging ink of the month because Kitten Paws contains pigment, particulate matter, pink particulate matter, and I have to remember to agitate the pen, and I did not. I did not remember to agitate the pen, so the inky iris is not showing up very pink. The beige is predominant, but look at that match. It matches so well with the body of the pen. I like it. I really like my inks and my pens to match. So this is obviously my main exception, that I have a black pen with a green ink in it. But this particular pen is going to be in use all year. It's my journaling pen for the entire year. So I chose a black pen so that I could put whatever I wanted in it. So pushing this up a little more just so that I have room. This is the one I am running out of. This is my Pilot Kakuno, Pilot Kakuno. Madarome Dreams in pink with a medium steel nib. And the ink is Wearingeul Don Quixote. And I'm just going to, you can see I'm down to virtually nothing. I'm just going to prime it by squeezing. There's no fluid being squeezed, but there's air being forced, and maybe that will push what little remaining ink there is forward. I can get my inky iris without, hopefully, without having to add ink to this pen. I'm hoping to just let it run dry and clean it and put it away. This is my neutral pen classification. So even though it is technically classed as a pink pen because its name is pink, it's the Madarome Pink, it is a very neutral looking pen. So it got my neutral classification, and the ink has my taupe or brown classification for the month. So Wearingeul Don Quixote is a very nice, slightly pinkish taupe. So I hope you can see that that matches quite well. But it is almost completely dry. You saw how little ink was left in that cartridge. So I didn't put a converter in it. Pilot converters are not great. They're not known for good converters. They're known for good nibs. I did not pay $27 for a Pilot Con 70 nib. Instead, I emptied the black cartridge it came with, flushed it with water, dried it with a Q-tip, and then popped Don Quixote in there so that I could have something colorful. So next up is a new to me pen. This arrived today. This is an Esterbrook Model J in the violet colorway. It's a soft taupey brown with just a hint of mauve. So violet, I guess. It's an ebonite body with hammered gold accents. I don't think it's real gold, but it's absolutely beautiful. It really catches the light and sparkles. This is my first Esterbrook pen, has the Esterbrook finial. Excuse me, nothing on the back end. I need to write with this one posted. It is a little short in my hand and so heavily front weighted that I need to actually write with this posted for comfort. So Esterbrook Model J in violet. It has a medium steel journaler nib by Gina Salarino. So Gina Salarino, excuse me, I'm struggling with my voice right now. Gina Salarino has a deal with Esterbrook whereby she makes these journaler nibs for them for their pens, and this the journaler nib is based on a historic a vintage nib, and I managed to snag one from Appelboom in the Netherlands, and it is inked with Ferris Wheel Press Lady Rose. So I don't know if you can see it. The pen is showing up really dark on the video. The pen is not that dark in real life. It is much lighter in real life. It is much closer to this color in real life. So for pen classification, this is a stub or CSI nib. In this case, it's a journaler nib, but what it does have is fatter downstrokes and narrower cross strokes. There's not as sharp a definition as if it was a cursive smooth italic or even a stub. It's stub-ish. It's not a full-on stub, but it's a very comfortable nib to write with. And for the ink, this is a wild card. I haven't used a Ferris wheel press ink in quite a while, mostly because I keep trying to use their shimmer inks and having massive failure. So I'm slowly working towards using non-shimmer inks in Ferris wheel press, and then we'll try shimmer inks again once I nail down a few more pens that can handle them. But so far, no luck using Ferris wheel press shimmer inks in any of my pens. But this is, yeah, Ferris wheel press Lady Rose. I bought that quite a few years ago. Used it once or twice, I think twice, and haven't used it since, and I'm loving it. And it does match very, very well. You can't tell from this angle, and the way the lighting is hitting the pen is coming off as quite dark, but it is a really good match with this violet ebonite material. So that is my currently inked. Comment-wise, I've pretty much covered everything that I will be writing down. My comments column is over here, and it's empty at the moment. And as you can see, I have room. If I write some pens dry, I have room to add a few more pens on this small 3.8 millimeter Tomoe River grid. And if you're wondering about the mix of units, I have a 95-pound dog and a 3.8 millimeter grid. I am Canadian. That's how we play. We mix our units. So imperial and metric, sing and dance happily in Canada. We're not all the way imperial and we're not all the way metric. We live in a weird place with both. So thank you very much for joining me for this currently inked. As you can see, I went in kind of a quasi rainbow order. Not in the traditional Roy Biv, but I started with my blues, then greens, then yellows, and blue plus yellow equals green. Moved from yellows into orange, into coral, and then into my pinky browns, which are, yeah, I have 4 pinky browns. If you could argue, one could argue that Opera Rose is a pinky brown, so it could be argued that I have 5 of them right now. It's February. I'm having fun with pinks. So thank you for sticking with me. I hope you got something useful done while I was babbling. And have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.